my wife Beverly and I were getting ready to go out to an anniversary dinner, and someone knocked at my door and handed me a set of orders telling me I had to depart immediately and to report to Washington, D.C. for a briefing with the Army Security Agency, and that I should be telling the family to start packing their boxes because we'd have to leave the next day. I had to be in this place called Vietnam by the 1st of January. The typical day for a chopper pilot was getting up at 4 in the morning and getting your breakfast and maybe getting a little exercise to get the blood flowing, and then going out and pre-flighting your helicopter to be ready to take off at first light with the plane load of troops, infantry. And so then you haul them out to their various landing zones where they're going to fight their next battles, and then spend the rest of the time running back and forth, hauling ammunition and rations out to them, and hauling wounded and dying back to the MASH hospitals. It was messy. We'd come back from those nasty missions, and then, of course, we'd have to kind of wash out the helicopter and patch up the holes in the helicopter with this green duct tape, and mainly so that the next guys going out didn't have to see your plane full of holes or listen to the wind whistling through the holes. And thank God for duct tape. But speaking of thanking God, it was a daily thing that you did your prayers, and you'd also, the 23rd Psalm was one I hung on to very dearly. I met a chaplain there, a little red-headed, wiry character. He was always noisy and loud and fun to be around. He had a big red mustache, and you could tell whether he was happy or sad from the back, depending on what direction his mustache was pointing. But he had quite a story. I just happened to ask him as we were sitting there one evening how he became a chaplain. And he said, well, he'd been in Korea, and he was on infantry patrol at the DMZ, and he was on this patrol walking along, and all of a sudden these North Koreans jumped out in front of him and leveled their guns at him and let loose. And this buddy that had been bugging him all the time to read the Bible and pray with him and all that sort of stuff jumped in front of him and took the brunt of the bullets. He returned the fire and did away with the enemy. But he said his buddy, before he died, he asked him, why did you do that? Why did you jump in front of me like that? He says, oh, because you haven't been saved yet. And then he died, but he said he couldn't forget it. He went on, wasn't going to be a career soldier, but he went into the chaplain's corps, and when I met him, he was a major. So he decided he's going to make a career out of it. The attitude in those days was my country, right or wrong, my country. I don't hear that anymore. The other sad part was coming back home and finding out we had another enemy, that being our own demonstrators who spit on the soldiers who wore uniforms to the point where commanders told their troops to try to find some civilian clothes to wear so they wouldn't receive that kind of treatment when they got back home. That was a psychological impact on our own troops, some of who never recovered from that. I unloaded. And I had to. Because I was still seeing these demonstrators on the news. this combination of anger and beginning to wonder who the real enemy was. You know, you get that kind of bitterness and try to get past that and trying to forgive yourself for feeling that way with the challenge.